Chosen one, breathe. This message is different. It didn't arrive by accident, and you didn't stumble into it by chance. Something unseen aligned the timing, slowed the noise around you, and brought you here, right now, because heaven marked this exact moment. What you survived is complete, not paused, not delayed, not circling back, finished. You didn't escape it. You outgrew it. And that's why it can no longer touch you in the same way. And chosen one, before we go deeper, pause for just a moment. Hit subscribe, like, and comment Amen if your spirit is already responding. Because this message isn't for the crowd, it's for you. And what's about to be revealed needs your agreement. You've carried questions you couldn't explain, pain you learned to hide behind strength, battles you fought in silence, while others only saw the surface. There were nights when confusion felt heavier than faith, when you wondered if the calling you sensed was real or just wishful thinking. But hear this gently. The investigation is over. Heaven has reviewed every tear, every delay, every closed door, every moment you thought you were overlooked. Nothing was missed. Nothing was wasted. Chosen one, what tried to break you was actually measuring you. What felt like rejection was divine redirection. You were being refined in shadow so you could stand in light without losing yourself. The weight you carried wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And now the cycle that once defined your suffering has reached its final page. You will never have to go through that again. There are forces that no longer have permission to access your future. Patterns that can't repeat. Triggers that have lost their authority. The reason things feel strangely quiet lately isn't emptiness, it's completion. Heaven has signed off on your endurance. The verdict has been delivered. Congratulations, it's done. So stay with me, chosen one. Don't rush past this moment. What's coming next will explain why it had to end this way and reveal the hidden truth behind everything you survived. Chosen one, take a slow breath and let this truth settle into your spirit. There was a time when the same weight kept finding you again and again, wearing a different face but carrying the same feeling. Different people, different situations, different seasons, but the exhaustion felt familiar. You may have wondered why it wouldn't stop, why it kept circling back just when you thought you were free. But hear this gently and clearly now. It was never random, and it was never meant to destroy you. What once drained you kept returning only until the lessons settled deep inside your soul. Life repeats what the spirit resists. Heaven allows echoes until understanding is complete. And for a long time, you were learning under pressure, learning boundaries, learning discernment, learning your own worth, learning how to stand without shrinking. The repetition wasn't punishment, it was training. It was refinement. It was the universe asking again and again, have you seen it yet? Have you recognized your power yet? Think back for a moment. Can you see how each cycle demanded something different from you? At first it asked for endurance, then it asked for courage, later it asked for truth, and finally it asked for release. You weren't failing because it came back. You were progressing. Each return stripped away illusion and forced clarity. Each repetition sharpened your vision until you could no longer unsee what you once tolerated. Isn't it true that what you accept today is very different from what you accepted back then? Chosen one, repetition ends when understanding arrives. And understanding doesn't always come as information. It comes as embodiment. It comes when your reactions change. When your silence becomes wisdom instead of fear. When you no longer chase what drains you or explain yourself to what refuses to see you. That's how heaven knows a lesson has landed. That's when the door quietly closes, not with drama, but with finality. Notice how certain triggers no longer pull you the same way. Notice how your spirit responds faster now, clearer now, calmer now. That's not numbness. That's mastery. That's the sign that the teaching has completed its work. The test doesn't need to repeat because the answer lives inside you now. And what lives inside you cannot be taken away. So ask yourself, chosen one, what did this season teach me about my value? About my voice? About my limits? About my strength? When you reflect honestly, you'll realize you're not who you were when the cycle began. You're steadier, you're wiser, you're rooted, and because of that, the old pattern has nothing left to attach to. This is why things are ending without explanation. This is why certain doors won't reopen, no matter how familiar they feel. The lesson has been fully learned. The energy has shifted. The chapter has closed. And now heaven is preparing to introduce something new. Something that won't test your wounds but honor your growth. Stay present, chosen one. The next revelation builds from here. Chosen one, this is where the shift became undeniable. For a long time, the battle wasn't only about what happened to you, it was about how your spirit responded to it. The same situations could appear, the same energy could approach, the same voices could try to pull you back into old emotions. But something within you quietly changed. Not overnight, not loudly, slowly, subtly, and deeply. And that inner shift is what altered everything. There was a season when you reacted instantly, when pain demanded a response and you felt compelled to explain yourself, defend your heart, or chase clarity from people who were never meant to give it. You wanted answers. You wanted acknowledgement. You wanted the story to make sense. But notice how that urge has softened. You no longer rush to be understood. You no longer fight to be chosen. You no longer bleed energy trying to prove your worth to those who benefit from misunderstanding you. Can you feel how different that is? Chosen one, you stopped reacting the same way. And in the spiritual realm, that is everything. Reaction feeds cycles. Emotion keeps doors open. When you disengaged, not from love, but from depletion, the pattern lost its fuel. You didn't become cold, you became conscious. You didn't shut down, you stood back. And in that stillness, wisdom rose. You learned that not every invitation deserves your presence, and not every question deserves your voice. You also stopped chasing closure. This is important. Closure isn't something others give you. It's something you grant yourself. At some point, your soul realized that waiting for apologies, explanations, or recognition was keeping you tied to the past. So you released the need to hear "I'm sorry." You released the need to be validated by those who couldn't see you. And in doing so, you quietly took your power back. How did it feel when you finally chose peace over answers? And then, chosen one, you stopped proving yourself. This may be the deepest transformation of all. When you know who you are, performance ends. You no longer overextend. You no longer audition for love. You no longer shapeshift to be accepted. You let truth stand on its own, and whoever can meet you there stays. Whoever can't, fades. Not because you push them away, but because your frequency no longer matched the lesson. Patterns collapse when behavior evolves. This is a spiritual law. The moment your inner response matured, the external cycle lost its assignment. There was nothing left to teach you through repetition. So it ended, quietly, permanently. And now ask yourself this, chosen one, if your response has changed this much, what kind of future do you think you're being prepared for? Because what comes next will not demand your pain, it will honor your growth. Chosen one, there are moments when the ending doesn't come because you decided to walk away, but because heaven stepped in and gently, yet firmly, shut the door behind you. This is one of those moments. You tried to leave before. You felt the nudge. You sensed the discomfort. You knew deep down that something was no longer aligned with who you were becoming. And yet, a part of you kept turning back. Not because you were weak, but because your heart was still learning how to let go. There were seasons when you almost left completely. You gathered the courage, took a few steps forward, and then doubt whispered. Memory pulled you back. Hope said, maybe this time it will be different. So you returned again and again to what felt familiar, even when it was draining. That doesn't make you foolish, chosen one. It makes you human. Sometimes the soul needs repetition not to stay, but to finally see clearly why it must go. Can you recognize how many times you tried to exit before the final closure arrived? This time, God closed the door for good, not suddenly, not harshly, but decisively. What once reopened now remains sealed. Conversations ended without resolution, paths crossed no more, opportunities to return simply disappeared. And at first, that finality may have felt painful, even confusing. You may have asked, why now? Why like this? But hear this truth with a softened heart. It wasn't rejection, it was protection. Chosen one. If God had left that door unlocked, your compassion might have drawn you back in. Your loyalty might have convinced you to try again. Your hope might have overridden your wisdom. So heaven intervened. The door was closed because your future required separation. What waited on the other side of your calling could not coexist with what kept pulling you backward. God didn't remove something good. He removed what was quietly costing you your peace, your clarity, and your strength. Notice how, even though it ended, something inside you feels lighter. The anxiety of deciding is gone. The internal tug of war has stopped. That's not loss. That's relief. That's the sign of divine alignment returning to your spirit. Ask yourself honestly, chosen one, if that door reopened today, would it still lead where you're meant to go? Or would it only delay what God is building for you now? Sometimes God closes doors we keep reopening because we can't see the danger beyond them. Not everything that feels familiar is safe. Not everything you love is meant to last forever. And not every ending is yours to orchestrate. Some endings are holy, some closures are answered prayers you didn't know how to pray. So rest in this knowing, chosen one. You are not being punished, you are being protected. The door is closed because the lesson is complete, and the next chapter requires your full presence. What's ahead will not require you to look back, only to trust forward. And as you do, you'll begin to understand why God made sure this time it ended for good. Chosen one, there comes a sacred moment when pain no longer has permission to enter your inner world. Not because the memory vanished, and not because the past never happened, but because access has been revoked. This is deeper than healing as most people understand it. Healing soothes wounds, revoked access protects territory, and right now your soul has crossed into a protected space. For a long time, what hurt you still had a key. It could reach you through memories, through certain names, through familiar patterns of thought. A single reminder could pull you back into old emotions, old self-doubt, old exhaustion. That wasn't weakness, chosen one. That was exposure. The door was still open. And access, not intention, is the real danger. What can reach you can influence you. What can influence you can shape your future. But something changed, quietly, firmly. Heaven stepped in and reset the boundaries of your inner world. Emotionally, you no longer collapse the way you once did. You feel, but you don't drown. You remember, but you don't spiral. There is a pause now, a sacred space between trigger and response. And in that space lives your authority. Can you sense that difference when old thoughts try to return and simply can't go as deep? Spiritually, the connection has been severed. What once fed on your attention can no longer draw from your energy. You stopped replaying the story for validation. You stopped revisiting the wound for understanding. Instead, you chose presence. You chose truth. And in doing so, you cut the cord that kept the past spiritually alive. This is not denial. This is dominion. The moment you stopped identifying with the wound, it lost its voice. Mentally, your mind is no longer an open field. It is a guarded garden. You notice thoughts now. You question them. You release them before they take root. Old narratives that once felt automatic now feel foreign, and that is evidence of transformation. When something no longer feels like you, it no longer controls you. Ask yourself, chosen one, how often do the same thoughts return compared to before? And when they do, how much power do they really have? This revocation didn't happen overnight. It happened through courage, through awareness, through choosing peace when chaos felt familiar. Each time you refused to re-enter the pain, a lock was placed. Each time you honored your growth, a boundary was reinforced. Until one day, what once dominated your inner world stood outside, unable to reach you. So understand this deeply. What hurt you no longer has access, not emotionally, not spiritually, not mentally. And because access is gone, influence is gone. And because influence is gone, repetition is gone. You are no longer vulnerable in the same way. You are protected by wisdom now. Stay grounded in this truth, chosen one. Guard what has been healed. Respect the boundaries heaven helped you build, because the next season will require your full strength. And now finally, nothing from the past can reach you to take it away. Chosen one, what you're experiencing now is more than relief. Relief comes when pressure lifts. But what you've been given is far greater. You've been entrusted with discernment, and discernment changes everything. It doesn't just remove the storm, it teaches you how to recognize the clouds before they ever gather. This is why your peace feels different now. It isn't fragile, it isn't temporary, it is guarded. There was a time when peace felt conditional, dependent on people behaving a certain way, situations resolving quickly, or outcomes aligning with your hopes. When those conditions shifted, your inner world shook. But that season trained your spirit. Through confusion, disappointment, and delay, you learned to listen beneath the surface. You learned to sense energy before words, motives before promises, silence before chaos. And now your peace stands watched like a gatekeeper. You didn't just gain relief, you gained awareness. You can walk into a room and feel when something is off. You can hear a conversation and sense what isn't being said. You can recognize patterns long before they form. That's not suspicion, chosen one. That's spiritual maturity. That's discernment protecting what healing has restored. Ask yourself, how often do you now pause instead of reacting? How often do you feel a quiet no before trouble begins? This is why even similar situations won't affect you the same again. The environment may resemble the past, but you do not. The test may look familiar, but your inner posture has changed. Where you once absorbed everything, you now filter. Where you once overgave, you now observe. Where you once questioned yourself, you now trust the signal within. Discernment doesn't shout, it whispers. And you've learned how to listen. Notice how quickly your body responds now. Tightness in the chest, unease in the spirit, a sudden loss of peace. These are not fears, they are alerts. They're divine cues reminding you that your peace is valuable and worthy of protection. You no longer push past discomfort just to be polite. You no longer sacrifice calm to keep others comfortable, and that is growth. Chosen one, guarded peace is a sign of divine promotion. It means you've been trusted with something sacred. Peace is no longer something you chase, it's something you maintain. You choose environments that honor it, conversations that respect it, relationships that protect it, and anything that threatens it is quietly, firmly kept at a distance. So ask yourself this as you move forward. If your peace is now guarded, what kind of life is God preparing you for? A life that requires clarity, a life that demands strength without noise, a life where calm is not weakness, but power. Stay attentive, chosen one. Your discernment is your shield, and it will ensure you never walk into the same storm unprepared again. Chosen one, as this chapter closes, a quiet anticipation begins to rise. Not fear, not anxiety, but readiness. What comes next will not test you the same way. This is important to understand, because many souls step into new seasons, expecting old battles to return in familiar forms. But growth does not move in circles. Growth moves forward, and you are no longer standing where you once were. Yes, new levels bring challenges. Expansion always does. But these challenges will not come to break you down or force you to relive what you've already mastered. They come to stretch, not to wound. They come to reveal strength, not expose weakness. The lessons that once tested your worth, your boundaries, your voice, those are complete. Heaven does not repeat finished work. Ask yourself, chosen one, why would the same exam appear again when you've already passed it? What's ahead will feel different in your body, in your spirit, in your awareness. You may notice moments of responsibility instead of survival, decision instead of defense, leadership instead of endurance. Where you once asked, why is this happening to me? You'll now ask, how am I meant to steward this? That shift in question alone tells you how far you've come. Can you sense how the energy of the future feels heavier with purpose, not pain? Growth moves forward, not backward. The universe does not promote by dragging you into old wounds. It promotes by inviting you into higher alignment. The discomfort you may feel ahead will not come from being mistreated. It will come from being stretched beyond familiarity. New rooms require new posture. New blessings require new discipline. New peace requires new responsibility. And you are being trusted with all of it. You might notice moments where the temptation to doubt yourself tries to whisper, using the voice of the past. But listen closely. That voice sounds distant now. It no longer has authority. You've already survived what once defined you. What's next doesn't need your suffering to shape you. It needs your presence. It needs your clarity. It needs your courage to step forward without dragging old stories behind you. So ask yourself, chosen one, what would it look like to face the future without armor meant for past battles? What if you no longer brace for harm but prepare for impact of blessing? What if the tension you feel is not warning, but expansion? Stay grounded, stay open, stay present. What comes next will challenge you, yes, but it will not test your wounds. It will test your wisdom. It will not pull you backward. It will call you upward. And as you rise, you'll realize something powerful. The hardest part is already over. Everything ahead is built on who you've become, not what you've endured.